I think one of the biggest fears an entrepreneur has is they don't want to lose money, because obviously you work hard, you put in a lot of energy, a lot of patience, and a lot of grit into making that money. And when someone asks me, how do I make sure I don't lose money? I usually tell them, keep it where you can see it. You won't lose it. And I'm going to teach you in this video, how do you see your money so you don't lose it? The first thing you need to do is see what you are projecting, which means you're going to have some very, very strong, very, very detailed financial projections. And financial projections is not just equal to revenue, it is the breakup of that revenue, it is breakup of that revenue from the different sources that revenue comes. And when I'm talking about revenue, I'm not just talking about what you are generating, I'm talking to you about what comes into your bank account. Because you may strike a sale for 10 lakh rupees, but it's not necessary that all that 10 lakhs is going to come in one shot. It'll come over a period of time. You have GST to factor, you have TDS to factor, and all that matters. So forecast revenue, but more than anything else, be clear about the money hitting your bank account. Very, very important. So it gives you visibility on a monthly minimum at least. Okay, in certain cases it can go down to even weekly or daily, but your financial projections across all the different sources at all points of the year for the entire year needs to be done in the beginning, and then constantly reviewed and updated so you have that visibility of what will come in. Very, very critical action step. The second thing you got to focus on is your budgets. And here's where people falter quite a lot, because they think budget is just about understanding what are the fixed expenses they need to bear. What I'm talking about over here is that when you look at your financial projections, to ensure that that happens, what are the budgets which you need to factor? Budgets for marketing, budgets for sales, budget for operations, budgets for any kind of other operational variable expenditures, and then finally your fixed expenses. And here, do not neglect the small things, because the small things is ultimately what eats up into your forecast, and ultimately that becomes the differentiating factor between what you expect and actually what is there in your pocket. So everything, which means that the outflow of GST, the outflow of your small ancillary expenses, any kind of statutory expenses, even travel, stay, conveyance, it doesn't matter. Do not make the mistake of putting approximate, because it doesn't work. Over a period of time, these approximations itself will what will eat you up. So go detailed, go into all kinds of bifurcations, ensure that every single source of money going out is factored under various different functions like marketing, sales, operations, and other supporting functions. Your budgets need to be split probably into minimum monthly, sometimes based on your business transactions, maybe even daily and weekly, for you to keep a track of how your outflows are working. That's the second most critical thing you need to focus on in alignment with your financial projections. The third thing you got to have is a buffer, which means that you're going to assume a practical worst, and sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 20%, sometimes it's 30%, but your overall expenditure over and above that, what you're able to forecast on a month-to-month basis, come up with an extra figure. And usually what I would do is I keep anywhere between 5 to 10% depending upon the kind of expenditures as a buffer for miscellaneous expenses, so that I have, and that's not my, I just want to be clear, that's not my safety net. That is not something which I fall back on if I have a problem. That is another source altogether. This is a buffer which I know for a fact can crop up and may get spent, and I assume that it's going to get spent probably on the upper side of 10%, so that you are allowing yourself the flexibility and you're not getting caught up in neck to neck choco block budgets, and you're allowing the possibility of things to go a little, things to deviate a little, because it will. So make sure you factor a buffer in your budget so that it doesn't take you by surprise. The fourth thing you got to focus on, and according to me, I think amongst everything else, this is the most important one, is to monitor and review your cash flows. And what I do, and this works like a charm for me, is I apply the 1+3 formula, which means that every month I'm reviewing cash flows, and 1+3 equals to I'm reviewing and updating for that month, plus the next 3 months from where I stand in that particular month. For example, let's just say we are in the month of October, and I am monitoring the cash flows and the projections for October, plus I'm optimizing and updating and having clear visibility for November, December and January. And then let's just say I'm in the month of November. Again, if I am applying 1+3, then I'm optimizing and updating the cash flows for November plus December, Jan and Feb. Then it will become December for December, Jan, Feb and March. So I'm constantly projecting for this month and 3 months, because every month things might change based on the realities. What you expected to come in might not come in. Sometimes more can come in. What you expected to go out might not go out. Sometimes more will go out. So that has to be reviewed constantly so that you're in control, you can anticipate and you can plug in the holes before the holes become too big. This is a very critical point for you to factor so that you are in control and you can make the right decisions. The fifth thing you got to focus on is to review your budgets at least on a quarterly basis. And this is a strategic review where you look down over a period of a quarter. I'm not talking about cash flows here. You may have spent more than you anticipated in month 1, but you caught up on it on month 2. All that is perfectly okay. But from a quarterly basis, you got to evaluate what you had projected in the beginning of the quarter versus what you actually spent at the end of the quarter, what you had projected in terms of inflow in the beginning of the quarter and what actually came in the end of the quarter. And you got to evaluate the deviation. Why does the deviation exist and what do you need to do to reduce that risk of deviation and for you to ensure that you don't lose any money. This is a regular practice which needs to happen every single quarter for you to ensure that you don't bleed money anywhere because of any kind of lack of awareness or something which is slipping under the carpet. This review really helps for you to understand that if you made the right decision in the first place. And the final and the sixth thing for you to focus on to make sure that you don't lose money is to ensure that you define clear budgetary milestones. Every budget or every investment or every expenditure which you make, especially when it's recurring, has a certain milestone which it needs to achieve. Okay, I'm not talking about the end result. I'm talking about a milestone which will tell you whether you're on track for that end result or not. It's like an indicator, it's a symptom. And those should be checkpoints. It can be more than one milestone, but those milestones give you signals, give you feedback whether you're on track or not. And this can really help where if you do not achieve certain milestones which you had set out, which are defined, it can help you to pull back on your budgets and probably even discontinue what you're doing so that you don't land up in a situation where you've gone too far and you've lost more money than what you can handle. And this really helps to ensure that you have the right kind of checks and balances in order for you to ensure that you don't lose money. Because I promise you, making less money is less hurtful than losing money, because making less money sometimes is not because of you, but when you lose money, in all probability is always because of you. Yeah, whatever people might say, ultimately it's something you could have done to avoid it. So making a note of these points and implementing them are very, very critical so that you can ensure that you're on top of your game. If you like what you heard and you found a lot of value, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and please make sure that you like, share and comment on my videos.